I get a lot of questions about how do I find my authentic self as a leader? I'm in search of my authentic self. When clients fill out my questionnaire, that first goal is to find my authentic self as a leader, especially if someone's in the midst of transition, either transitioning from an individual contributor to a leadership position, or going from a mid-level leader to an executive, or going from an executive to a senior leader in the organization. And it's that quest to uncover your authentic style. Well, there's so many different ways to do this. The first step I would say would be that self-reflection. What brings you a sense of accomplishment as a leader? There's several ways to look for your authentic style as a leader. The most common one is assessments. And assessments are a form of feedback. And you have assessments like Myers-Briggs, the Hogan assessment, DISC, Clifton Strength. All of those are assessments. And what happens in some situations, or I should say in some situations, in a lot of situations, people take one of those assessments, say Myers-Briggs or the Hogan assessment, and their first reaction is, this is who I am. This is who I am as a leader. And I would caution you not to put sort of all your leadership eggs in one basket. I learned some time ago that each assessment that we take over the years are simply data points in time of where you are as a leader. And it will change as you evolve as a leader. The goal is to take those different assessments, similar to Myers-Briggs, Hogan assessment, Clifton Strengths, or the DISC, and triangulate and find out, okay, so what's the core essence of my authentic leadership style? What keeps coming up for me? Because from that, you can determine, okay, this is where I sit as a leader. This is what comes up as a leader. And you will also find out what keeps coming up from a standpoint of things that I need to do differently, where I need to course correct or evolve my leadership style. And again, since leadership is a lifetime journey, your style will evolve over your lifetime as a leader in an organization or different organizations. So don't get stuck on, this is who I am as a leader. That could handicap you as a leader. As you develop that authentic style, what happens is you become more of a situational type leader. You lead according to the situation and according to the individual, because every situation doesn't warrant the same style of leadership. In some situations where there's an extreme emergency, you might have to go into that command and control style of leadership. And then sometimes you can be more democratic, where you have more time and you want more input. So you can go from one extreme to the next, depending on the situation and where you are as a leader and the team around you. If you have a newer team who's very fresh and not really experienced in what they're doing, you might have to be in more of a command and control type of leadership, similar to the military. Or if you have a very seasoned team, you can allow for more collaboration or independent work, because you have a good understanding of where those individuals are in their journey as either direct reports, peers, other leaders in the organization. So it's important to be open about where your style is as a leader and where you are as a leader. My leadership style has evolved over the years. When I was a cadet, as a young man, it was more command and control. It was a very militaristic style of leadership. As I evolved as a leader and took on roles from volunteering to working in corporate environments, my style began to evolve. I realized that I needed more input. I needed to learn more. And that's how we learn, and that's how we develop as leaders. We should not get hung up on one style. Our goal should be to become a situational leader, to adapt our leadership according to the situation at hand and according to the individual. Because every individual cannot be led the same way. Yes, you have an overarching style as a leader, but when you're working with different people, you have to adjust your style to that individual in the moment and based on what they need. That's what true leadership is about. You might have someone who's new, and you might need to be highly directive as a leader. Or you might have someone who's extremely seasoned in your organization, where you can actually delegate and have follow-up conversations with that individual, because that person understands what's expected of them. And then you have everything that's in between that. So highly directive, delegate, and then everything that goes in between that. So keep that in mind as you're leading, that every personality responds to a different way of leadership. Yes, you want to be fair and you want to be consistent, but you also want to ensure that you're connecting with that person that you're leading. And the only way to do that is to get to know that person and to get to know you as a leader. And that's constant growth. That's constant evolution. That's why leadership is a lifetime journey.